Defendant Tim Norman testifies in murder-for-hire trial. After a brief delay proceedings Tuesday morning, the plotted nephew murder and shooting out to stand in the defense. James Norman in 2000 murder on Montgomery. Did you any murder of Montgomery? Defense attorney Michael Leonard asks. No, sir, Norman said. Norman claimed he didn't know who gunned down his nephew until summer 2022 when the trigger man pleaded guilty. Norman, on the stand, recalled his upbringing and working for Sweetie Pies. He'd been a manager since 2010, working between 15 and 16 hours a day. The show began filming that year. In 2011, when the show premiered on television, Norman became manager of the Mangrove location on Manchester Avenue in Tower Grove. Norman estimated he made at least $55,000 in revenue each week from the restaurant, store, merchandise, and ATMs he operated. Andre Montgomery moved to St. Louis from Texas to finish high school. He lived with his grandmother at the time, Norman said. Norman told the court he tried writing Andre into the show as much as possible and mentoring him. After he graduated high school, Andre moved back to Texas. However, Andre came back to St. Louis half a year later. Norman said that Andre had issues in Texas and felt it would be better for him in St. Louis. Andre moved back in September 2014, and Norman set him up with an apartment at the same building Norman lived, just a couple of doors down on the same floor. Norman paid for the apartment. In addition, Norman said he pulled strings and paid for Andre to attend Nelly's music producer school and Extreme Institute. He provided Andre with transportation to and from the school and let him use his own vehicles at the time. Norman also gave Andre a daily allowance. Norman contacted his insurance agent, Wally Yagnam, to acquire a policy for Andre. According to Norman, Yagnam met with Andre on October 7, 2014 to ask the young man questions for his insurance application. Norman understood that he could be earned on policy and had to be responsible for paying them. He said he didn't want to pull out the purse. Andre moved out of the apartment Norman had been paying for in mid-2015. Norman said the family cut off Andre financially after this. By June 2015, Norman moved to Los Angeles to oversee a new Sweetie Pies restaurant. That same month, burglars broke into Robbie Montgomery's home. More than $200,000 in cash and other valuables were stolen from the residence. Norman had jewelry, fur coats, computers, TV scripts, and recording equipment stolen from his mother's home, as well as music masters. He blamed Andre for the burglary, who left the area shortly after the crime. Norman said the family hired a private investigator to locate Andre, and he told people they were looking for him. From the stand, Norman said he never told anyone that he wanted his nephew harmed or killed. Andre returned to St. Louis in March 2016, and Norman said he was notified on March 6th. Norman said it'd been 9 to 10 months since he last saw his nephew. He said Andre had grown and put on weight. At no point did he want to kill or harm Andre, he said. After learning his nephew was back in town, Norman said he kept his normal schedule. He would fly back to St. Louis on March 13th or 14th to visit the Sweetie Pies location in town, empty their safes on a Monday, and make bank deposits. Federal prosecutors alleged Norman arranged Montgomery's murder for $450,000 in insurance benefits, of which Norman was the sole beneficiary. Andre Montgomery Jr. was shot and killed in the 3900 block of Natural Bridge Road just after 8 p.m. on March 14, 2016. He was 21 years of age. Norman was one of the 4 people indicted in the conspiracy. The gunman, Travell Hill, pleaded guilty in June 2022 to 1 count of murder for hire and 1 count of conspiracy to commit murder for hire. He'll be sentenced on September 20. Norman testified he did not order anyone to pay Hill $5,000. Terica Ellis, an exotic dancer in Memphis, Tennessee, was accused of setting Andre up and tipping off Norman as others about Andre's location prior to the murder. Ellis pleaded guilty in July 2022 to 1 count of murder for hire conspiracy. She'll be sentenced on October 26. Norman said he met Ellis at an East St. Louis strip club in 2009. Months later, they began an on and off again sexual relationship. However, Norman testified that those encounters were not free. He said he paid Ellis $200 to $300 each time they met. After Welcome to Sweetie Pie's debut on television, the cost of their encounters increased to between $7,000 and $1,000. Norman said he routinely sees women at the Chase Park Plaza Hotel in the Central West End. He said he would use burner phones to keep his fiancée at the time from finding out about his infidelities. Yagnam was indicted in August 2020 on 1 count of conspiracy to commit wire and mail fraud. He pleaded guilty on July 2022. He'll be sentenced on October 26. Prosecutors allege Norman conspired with Yagnam to fraudulently obtain the life insurance policy on Montgomery. That policy contained a $200,000 base with a $200,000 accidental death rider that would pay out if Montgomery died of anything besides natural causes, and $50,000 10-year term rider that would pay out if Montgomery died within a decade of the policy being approved. Norman said he did not fill out the life insurance applications. Defense attorney Leonard implied Yagnam and an associate of his were the ones who filled out the forms and kept Norman in the dark. After testifying for several hours, Norman's cross-examination was brief, about 10 minutes. Prosecutors pointed out that American Express had won a debt judgment against Norman in September 2015 for over $200,000. They also inquired about the burner phones. Earlier Tuesday, Natalie Calvert, an executive producer on Welcome to Sweetie Pies, did testify cast members were required to wear wireless mics while taping episodes of the show. Calvert said the cast was told their phones must be on speaker while using them so the TV cameras could record the conversations. However, Calvert told the court some in the cast would occasionally use prepaid phones for personal conversations away from the cameras. Prosecutors asked Norman, why would you give Terica Ellis a prepaid phone if she wasn't a cast member on the show? Closing arguments are expected Wednesday morning. The jury will begin deliberations afterwards. I will update you guys as soon as possible on the deliberations as well as closing arguments. Thank you so much for tuning in. This has been Twanna Y'vette for the Twanna Y'vette Show.